You are listening to Ultra Q, episode 70, No Longer Nice. My name is Red. I'm joined by Mel.
We're very good at our jobs to put the entire winter horror series in one episode.
I know. Also joined by Brad.
Somehow Wu has returned.
Somehow. Honestly, the way he has returned, interesting. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know Wu could do that. That's all right. So coming up, the winter horror series, Scary Stories. Do they keep
Allegedly.
adding words onto the winter horror series? Maybe.
This had to have been like a channel thing. I refuse to believe there weren't other shows at the time that were also doing a winter horror series.
This is now tradition for Ultraman. This is like we had the summer Scary Stories as well.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Starting with this show.
Starting
like the
with
winter
this
was
show.
last time.
This show has run out of ideas so quick that they're like, we got to do horror series like every 6 months. Before we get to any of those, obviously we've got our usual shit. What have we been up to? I'm not going to go first because the only thing I have finished is something I'm going to talk about with Mel.
I have an onslaught.
You have an onslaught? Okay, then go ahead.
Okay.
Lead.
So I have gone full Herzog mode. As I've kind of been building
So
up
to clarify, is it Werner or Werner?
The man told me not to embarrass myself, so I'm just gonna say Werner. But I have been slowly going, okay, I should pick away at more of this dude's stuff that I haven't yet seen. One of them being a documentary that's just available on YouTube and has been for a bit because, as is the case for a lot of his smaller scale documentaries, no one gives a shit, nobody's checking, it's just all up on YouTube. So I watched Wings of Hope, which is kind of spiritually a follow-up to another movie he did, or I guess another documentary I should clarify, called Little Dieter Needs to Fly. That one is about a German-American fighter pilot, I think actually bomber, who crashed during the Vietnam War and then got taken prisoner and then escaped. And it basically is following, like, he goes back to where he was imprisoned and how he escaped and the route he took to get back to, like, the American, front lines or whatever. And that, I did not like that documentary. I've watched it twice, being like, okay, maybe there's something here. But I honestly just don't really want to hear the story of this guy being like, yeah, so, I was dropping bombs and shit, and then I crashed, and they, I got taken prisoner and tortured. And then, also just as weird, is that they go to a bunch of the villages that they also visited when he was prisoner or being taken to where he was being held. And, like, they get the locals to help reenact scenes of his torture and imprisonment. And
That's wild.
They don't seem extremely comfortable with it, as you might imagine. And the whole thing just has a weird feeling to it. And I did not like it.
That shit's crazy. I would not do that.
Yeah, and there's even one scene where he kind of pats a guy who's, like, awkwardly kind of laughing about the whole thing on the back. He's like, hey, you don't need to worry about it, man. The war's over. It's just a movie. And the guy looks so uncomfortable.
Damn.
It's also a very weird start to that guy's career because his journey to how he became a German-American, pilot was he was in Berlin as it was being bombed by Allied bombers and was like, man, planes are awesome. It's just like, okay, sure. I guess this is a childhood view you could carry on to adulthood like that.
Fucking
I mean, like
Miyazaki.
the guys working on early Super Aya stuff.
This is just Hayao Miyazaki.
Like, I think it was like, who's the guy? He's the guy who's like Super Aya's quote-unquote son at Toho or whatever, who was just like, damn, I thought you made a documentary, but that was special effects? That's crazy. I love playing And then he enlisted because of that movie or something.
Yeah. Super Aya filled with some odd guys.
Yeah. So this documentary, Wings of Hope, is another documentary about someone who crashed in a plane and then had to go through terrible wilderness conditions to get back home. But instead, this is not the story of a military pilot. This is the story of I believe she was 15 at the time. She was wildly young. One woman who was and I guess I should say girl because she was a child, who was the sole survivor of a crash, I'm forgetting the country at the moment here. I'm gonna real quickly look this up. But her parents came from Europe, and they were ecologists who were, it was in Peru. And they were over in Peru doing ecology work, and they were going back and forth between their home and Peru. And it was, I want to say it was like December 23rd, and like everyone, obviously airports back in the day, and even now, everyone's in a rush to get somewhere. So they're at the airport, and there's this huge fucking clusterfuck because I think they overbooked a flight, or something weird happened with the logistics of who's getting on the plane and all this stuff. She is in the airport with a man known as Werner Herzog and his film crew, who are about to go to Peru in the jungle so they can film Aguirre, The Wrath of God, one of his first early major important movies. And there's a huge kerfuffle about who's getting on this next flight, and everyone's worried about it. At some point, they decide, okay, we're going to hold the film crew back, and everyone else gets to go back home. And Herzog's people are going to go on the next flight out tomorrow morning. So they're a little bummed about it, but they're like, okay, whatever. So everyone else boards this flight, including Juliana Kopke, this main character. It crashes in the jungle because it hits a storm. She is the only person to live. Half her body is just broken or in some other state of disarray. And she uses what she knows about the jungle's ecology to get back to civilization and get some help. It is a wild story, and Herzog specifically sought her out after many years of her not being publicly, like, in the public eye, because she's just like, I just don't want to talk about it. But he's like, I feel sorry because we were supposed to be on that same flight, and I've always felt like it was a weird chance of fate that me and my entire film crew didn't die, and I kind of wanted, for my own closure as well, talk to the sole survivor of that incident. And they kind of bond and have a little bit of back and forth before they do it, but then they take her back to where the plane fell, which, keep in mind, this is thick jungle. They state that just to get back to where the plane wreckage is, it took them like 2 weeks. Oh, because wow. They had to clear out so much brush and density. But they get to the site of the plane crash, and then they have her walk through and recount how she knew what to do and where to go. And, like, she's talking about, like, well, I knew this river flowed into that one, so I started to follow this. And, like, she was looking around for boats, and, like, she knew kind of vaguely what she could eat and what she couldn't eat. And it's just, like, an amazing story of just, like, someone in the most extremely horrific of circumstances, using what she knows, given her, scientific knowledge, to just make it out okay. But then also, too, touches a little bit on her emotional experience, not only as a survivor of that traumatic incident, but she's also, there's a little bit in there, and it's not really ever brought to the forefront, but it's touched on briefly because she visits, like, a monument to the disaster that was made in her honor that she's never seen in person before, because, after she survived the crash, she went back home and just never really went back to Peru, it sounded like. But it's her first time seeing it, and she's just kind of taking it all in. And there's a little bit of talk about how she emerged from this as this, like, symbol of hope. And that's kind of a heavy thing to have to live with, on top of having to suffer, like, this hugely traumatic incident where everyone that was in that plane with you died. So very interesting hour documentary. It was like a made-for-TV thing. Once again, called Wings of Hope. It's just available on YouTube. Definitely recommend it. Very interesting journey. And a lot of really, really incredible footage of just, like, plane debris decades after the fact. Just being integrated into the jungle's like flora. Beautifully shot documentary.
Just real quick, the guy who was talking about before, I just looked him up again to remember his name. It was Sadamasa Arikawa.
Yes,
Okay.
that does sound familiar. The effects were real. What a guy. Speaking of effects were real.
Okay.
The second of two Herzog productions I watched is a mockumentary, and maybe the only comedic thing he's made, called The Incident at Loch Ness.
Okay.
So I was bored one day, and I was talking with my ex, and she was also bored, and we're like, do you want to just watch something? And then we settled on this. This is a movie that was made in production with Zach Penn, who I don't really know what he's been up to these days, but I know that he was one of the scriptwriters who did that first Avengers movie, like with Whedon and co. back in like 2012. And I think he also worked on the Fox X-Men. Like, I think he did X2 or something like that too. Like, he's kind of a superhero guy. At some point, he and Herzog decided to make a mockumentary about it. So in universe, what it is, it's a documentary about Herzog, who's making a documentary about the Loch Ness Monster. And so Herzog is in it, basically just playing like a straight-laced version of himself, like as if he was actually doing this super seriously. Like, yes, I'm super interested in Nessie as a cultural object that we place our own ideas onto. But then Zach Penn is playing a ridiculous producer man who's trying to do thing like hire bikini babes to go on the boat with Herzog as like instrument technicians and stuff, and he and Herzog increasingly get into arguments that are ridiculous about it, and then they get attacked by the real Loch Ness Monster and need to survive. It is so fucking funny. I don't think you would make this style of mockumentary anymore because it is played straight for so long. And it's not until I would say like the last third where they really start to go off the rails and have fun with it, where like people are holding each other at gunpoint and like screaming at each other, and there's just like a really dumb CGI Loch Ness Monster swimming around in the background.
Hell yeah.
It's really fun. This one
now this is the podcast for it. Should have got a guy in a suit.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. That would have been amazing. It is very funny. There is one extremely like, oh Jesus Christ, that's a joke that is highly offensive and not age well in like the first 10 minutes, and I don't actually remember what it is off the top of my head. I wouldn't even repeat it here because I remember just being like, oh Jesus Christ, that's awful. But aside from that, it's mostly just a fun time. And I kind of wish he did something like this again. The thing is, though, too, is I feel like he's at a point in his life where he's not really working or collaborating with other people as much. And I think you kind of need someone else to get this out of him, where it's like, let's make something that's just kind of funny and, like, playing into, like, the cultural idea of you as this serious filmmaker who's kind of eccentric, sort of thing. I don't really know if they'd make something like this anymore, but, yeah, it was a funny time. And after we got done watching this, her and I were like, oh, we should just watch something else because we're both bored. And we decided to make a double feature of it with a little known movie, perhaps you've heard of it, called 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Never heard of it.
Yeah, it's niche.
Yeah. Ironically, we were laughing because it did become. It did work out as a double feature because both of them, the important vessels that they're on, are both named the Discovery. So
That's
we were
good.
joking, it's the Discovery double feature. Hot take.
One of those good movies.
It's a pretty good movie.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I'd seen it, and I think I loved it when I first saw it way back in, I want to say it was like early college I watched it. And I liked it even more now, with all those years behind me and more experience watching important movies. And I'm just like, yeah, no, this one's great. It holds up. That match cut everyone always talks about is still one of the coolest shots ever, where it cuts from ape proto-human man throwing bone, cut to giant space satellite fuck-off cannon pointed directly towards Earth's surface. Oh, it's amazing.
I think I've only seen the first 20 minutes of the movie, but yeah, that cut's pretty good.
It's really good. It's just a great time, and it's just like, yeah, I understand why this is still, like, everyone wants to put a fucking monolith in their sci-fi works, and for good reason. It's such an evocative
it's fucking
image.
Cool. It's fucking... Yeah. It shows up, it goes, and then you sat there going, oh, Jesus.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, I feel like evolving right about now.
Yeah.
That Star Corridor sequence still looks fucking incredible.
Yeah.
And I now am a person who cares enough about special effects that I looked at the device they made and the camera work they had to do to even film that without, like, in a pre-CGI era. I don't understand how people were, like, smart enough and well-versed enough in how camera works as, like, a scientific thing to make that shot possible. It looks incredible. But yeah, I had a great time with it. It was her first time seeing it, and, like, we were mostly sitting there in silence, but then every 20 minutes she would joke, like, oh, I really wish there was a man to explain this confusing movie to me right now, and I was like, oh, shut up. It was a great time.
You should point
That's point
to
that's
the computer and go, that's R2-D2.
Yeah. That's how.
That reminds me, I feel like, I remember stepping out of the theater for Seed Freedom, and, like, in front of the theater was, like, I think a guy talking to his friend who may have been his girlfriend, and he was explaining Gundam Lore to her, and I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, she kept trying to pull it. She kept trying to pull it out of me. She just kept going like, oh, what's happening right now? I'm like, I'm not falling for it. I'm not falling for it. It was a good time. We also joked, like, oh, we should do more Herzog and completely unrelated movie double features, and we're trying to brain shoot possible ones. So that might happen in the future. It'd be fun, but I don't know if I'll have the time. We'll see. I saw one other movie. This is a very movie-filled week for me.
Okay.
I saw that Princess Mononoke was back in theaters, and I was like, I don't really care about that movie, but fuck it, it's been a minute. And, like, those movies, seeing a Ghibli movie on the big screen, there are worse things you could do to spend an afternoon. So I saw it, and I think I liked it more than I have in the past. I think it's a pretty solid movie. My problem with it, that I don't think I'll ever be able to escape, is that I just think it's a worse version of Nausicaa. I really do. I
still need to watch Nausicaa. That's, like, the one Ghibli movie where I'm like, okay, I'll watch it, and then I won't care enough to watch the other one.
It's by far, I'd say, probably my favorite at this point. I still have a soft spot for Howl's Moving Castle, but, like, I think that's just more, at this point, like a weird childhood thing, and not, like Nausicaa's just leagues better than I think anything else made by Miyazaki.
Earlier this year, I started, like serious, because, I've watched Ghibli movies here and there, like, when I was a kid and stuff, but, never, like, seriously. And then I was just like, I'm just gonna watch through them. And I, in, like, the early years, they've got, like, some fun movies next to, like, Takahata making Grave of the Fireflies and Only Yesterday, and I was like, this is mean. This is mean to Miyazaki. This is so cruel. He's teamed up with, like, a guy he admires, and, like, Miyazaki's right. Admire Takahata.
Yeah.
Only Yesterday is so good.
I still need to see Only Yesterday.
It's really, really, really,
all travel seems
really...
so far away.
Yeah. It's really good. But it was... I also think one of the funniest things that anyone has ever done was make Kiki's delivery service after Takahata made Grave of the Fireflies. Like Miyazaki's like, I don't know what your problem is. My protagonist would be fine on her own. She'd handle it. I don't know what your problem, what your kid's problems are.
Have I told y'all about how Grave of the Fireflies broke up a couple I knew?
Yes.
Okay.
I remember the story. I remember listening to. I think I remember listening to that podcast in Japan.
Okay. I wasn't sure if I had gotten that down in podcast history lore or not.
I think
but every time I think of Grave of the Fireflies, I think about what that lady said, and I go, "Oh my god, how is that a real person that exists in the world?"
She's like those fireflies had it coming.
Basically, she was just like, "Oh, those kids sure were whiny." And I'm just, I can't remember the exact verbiage now, but it was something like that. Some people. But yeah, Princess Mononoke, beautifully animated. I think it was the last hand-drawn one before they all went, like, digital. And, you know, I think, like, Spirited Away and stuff looks good, too, but, like, this is just a different level. I actually remember it being... I know this movie has reputations, it's like, oh, this is, like, the dark adult one that's all bloody, and, like... I kind of remember there being more blood, if I'm being honest. Like,
lol.
This boy has a demon arm that lets him shoot arrows so hard that, like, he decapitates and, like, dismembers people. And it's honestly pretty bloodless for what it is.
Isn't that Berserk?
Basically. Well, he doesn't have a demon arm. He just has the fucked up hand with the cannon on it. But, I think one issue I have with this movie that I don't know necessarily if I had the... I don't really know if in years past when I was like, oh, I like Nausicaa more, I really thought about this as much as I did during my last viewing, where, in Nausicaa, the whole nature versus mankind sort of theme is dealt with by proxy of those weird bug creatures that, like, you're not going to communicate with those things. And in Mononoke, it's all handled with these nature gods who are anthropomorphized as, like, you know, there's the wolf clan, there's the ape people, there's the boar clan, and they all have distinct, like, cultures and personalities, and it honestly makes it feel like, oh, the beings of the nature woodland all have the same sort of schisms and vices and sins and problems that their human counterparts do. And I think that just makes for a less interesting movie when you're doing something about the balance of harmony between mankind and how they affect the environment and Gaia's wrath and that sort of thing. It just doesn't work as well for me, I feel. But yeah, overall, had an alright time with it. I think it's an okay movie, but I know there's a lot of people that are like, it's one of the best movies ever made, and that's not me, personally speaking.
Damn.
Yeah.
You could do worse, though.
Always.
You could do better.
There's always a worse movie.
You can always do better, yeah. Everything I talk about critically from now on, I'm just gonna say that and nothing else. You can always do better. You know what could have done better a little bit? It was a good time, but could have done better.
Ultraman Ace.
Kingdom Hearts 1.
Oh, did you also finish Kingdom Hearts 1?
Yes, I've been working on this for the last, like, I want to say month and a half now. I have defeated Ansem, Seeker of Darkness. I have closed off the door to Kingdom Hearts so the Heartless can't infect it anymore.
Was Mickey there?
Yeah, at the end as a silhouette because Capcom was being assholes at the time. Do you know that story?
No.
So...
Is this Aragorn kick the helmet?
I don't think so. I think this one's a little more obscure. It could get there, maybe, though. Maybe in Kingdom Hearts circles, this is an Aragorn-esque story. But, I also... Can I say, as a side tangent, I love how that seemed to become more of a meme in the culture that I'm seeing more and more, like, literally 2 weeks after we recorded that podcast.
Yeah. That's our influence.
Yeah. Very funny. I know it was always brewing, but it seemed like it really popped off after we had that joke sequence. But Kingdom Hearts, Mickey Mouse is barely in that game. He is referenced by name as King Mickey, and then you see him mostly in silhouette in the ending cutscene. And apparently the reason for this is because around the same time that Disney and Square Enix made the deal to make Kingdom Hearts, Capcom had been licensed and had a contract with Disney to make some Mickey Mouse platformer game for like PS2, GameCube, Xbox, like, you know, those consoles.
It sounds like a derogatory adjective when you say it's some Mickey Mouse platformer.
Now, to be fair, I've heard the Castellution games are pretty decent.
Yeah.
But apparently Capcom was not thrilled about, like, oh, like, we're using Mickey Mouse for our video game. So they had to work out, like, a weird deal between the three of them. Like, okay, he can only be referenced by name, and he'll only show up a little bit towards the end.
Mickey Mouse corporate wars.
Yeah. Let me tell you, I think history vindicated Kingdom Hearts in that conflict at Square. But
a silhouette of Mickey Mouse is very recognizably Mickey Mouse.
It is.
This is also one of the things about Mickey Mouse.
He also has more of a distinct design than I remember from playing it as a kid. Because I remember him showing up and mostly being obscured. But, like, you can make out, like, details more so than I remembered. But yeah, Kingdom Hearts is a game I played as a kid and liked quite a bit. I also played the follow-ups Chain of Memories as a kid, and I loved that game. And then I played Kingdom Hearts 2, and I hit it at the exact perfect time to be like I'm thinking deeper about the video games and movies and TV shows and media that I think, and this is just confusing JRPG garbage, and did not react well to that story. And I kind of fell off.
So you're a YouTube essayist.
Basically, that's how I got my start as a YouTuber, is by disliking Kingdom Hearts 2.
More like a Kingdom of Farts, am I right? So wacky.
So true. And yeah, I just, at the time, I was like, oh, this became nonsense garbage, unlike the first game. And I fell off the series hard after that. It did not help by the fact that, like, they were making spin-offs, and I didn't always have, like, you know, like Birth by Sleep came out, and it's like, I don't have a PSP. Only time I ever played PSP was when I borrowed my friends, so I was like, well, okay, I guess I'm done with that series. And then, you know, as an adult, I kept going, I should probably revisit that with more of an open heart, pun absolutely intended, and see how I'm feeling about it now, accepting that maybe that series...
open to remind.
Yeah, exactly. So over the course of 358 over 2 days, no. But yeah, I figured it's about time, like, I go and revisit those games. I've wanted to for a while now, and since they just came out on Steam, I figured I might as well. So I wanted to go into it with an open mind, acknowledging, hey, this series didn't necessarily go down the route I maybe expected when they were coming out at the time, and that was disappointing to younger me. But these games resonate with people, obviously, for a reason, and I want to see with open eyes what's there emotionally that people can get invested in, and kind of have, like, a more accepting stance on, okay, this is what it turned out as, and, you know, there's obviously stuff here that's interesting, and I just gotta brace myself for it. But Kingdom Hearts 1 is just a normal video game. It's just a normal kid's story with Disney and Final Fantasy characters and a trio of 3 childhood friends who go on an adventure and deal with, you know, the fact that growing up is a little hard, and sometimes friendships can get complicated. Sometimes they're complicated by things such as jealousy or distance. But as long as you're devoted to the people you care about and you act with genuine kindness and you try to do the right thing, everything will turn out okay. And I think it's just an overall pretty solid kids RPG. It was interesting revisiting it because it's a lot smaller in a lot of ways than I remember as a kid. Funnily enough, this is a more appropriate comparison than I would have thought of, but it was kind of like when I first replayed Mario 64 after many years of having not played it. I went into, like, the first level of Bob-omb Battlefield, and I was like, oh my god, this is so small from what my childhood made it be.
Actually, that's a good comparison to make, because I do know that Mario 64 was a big inspiration on the original Kingdom Hearts.
Yep, that's exactly what I was gonna say. Yeah. This game was made because people at Square Enix, I think it was specifically Nomura, was like, we need something like a Mario 64. And they started in part because they wanted a game of that style, but then also they wanted a game to sell that well, like a major hit like that, that was just universally loved. And they were talking, they're like, well, we don't necessarily have an IP like Mario it's that big, so that's kind of where the idea to reach out to the Disney office that they were apparently pretty close to, and see if they would be interested in collaborating. So it sounds like the game honestly was originally developed as more of a platformer than it turned out to be. There are still elements of it there. Like, I would describe it as a three-way hybrid of like a character action game, an RPG, and a platformer.
I played like a few years ago. I tried playing KH1 myself and fell off because that was a period of my life where I fell off of everything. But like I got like a third of the way into the game, and yeah, I think that's a pretty accurate description. It's like doing kind of like an action game combat system with like Final Fantasy menuing, but also you're exploring like kind of like Mario 64 style environments, platforming.
An action adventure.
Yes, exactly. With
action
things
adventure
in each
role playing game.
Yeah. With things in each world to collect. Now, I have been a long time. Oh yeah, I thought KH1 was better than KH2 person. So I don't know how I'd feel about that these days. I'm very curious to get to KH2. But I've been on the internet enough to see like talking points about like, oh, like KH1, because there is a not insignificant amount of people that, like me, liked KH1 a lot, give or take Chain of Memories, and then didn't care for 2. And that's in part because KH1 does lean in more on, I would say, the RPG side of things and the platformer side of things, compared to KH2, which really doubles down on, oh, this is an action game with like a very intense combat system, and the world design's just a bit more flat from what I remember. And there's a lot of people that felt like something got lost in that process.
Yeah, so I have like in my action game circles, they all like they're all pretty high on the series as a whole and generally like things in all the games. But they are kind of like of the opinion of like KH2 in particular seems like more of an action game than an RPG, and the other games in the series just have more RPG stuff in them, even if they're still like, all action RPGs at their core. Which I think will be interesting, because I also want to take the plunge at some point. It's just like when I want to figure out when I want to squeeze in the time. And also, I want to have money to buy the games on Steam. But
yeah,
I'm curious because I also have been itching to actually do a similar thing to what you're doing. It's just like, I want to get, when I get to it, I'll be interested in comparing notes.
Yeah. I think when that perfect harmony between those three elements hits, this is like a truly special video game where it's like, oh damn, this just feels great. And they're really touching a blend of genres here that it feels almost kind of rare in a way, like especially with that platformer element of it mixed in, where it's just like you'll be going around platforming,
not to be
looking
confused
for stuff.
with Rare, the developers of Banjo-Kazooie.
Yep. I honestly feels like there's some influence from that whole era of like mascot platformer a little bit with how the collecting works in that game.
Yeah.
But like you'll be platforming around like a dungeon-esque area, and then you'll get into combat, and you'll be fighting monsters and like blocking and dodge rolling, maybe having to maneuver around to like weak areas depending on the monster, because some of them have like frontal like shields or defenses. And, you want to use your spells and stuff like that. And it's like this nice blend of all three of these elements. But unfortunately, too, the other side of that is that when one of those three elements falls out of sync with the other two, it just screeches to a halt and it feels kind of bad. Sometimes you're having fun playing like an action RPG, and then you fall off the platform you're on, and then Sora starts to dangle because there's like an automatic ledge grab, and you have to awkwardly maneuver your way back up to a platform, and it just feels bad. And it's it's this weird fluctuation between we're so back, oh, it's over, throughout most of the game. And then you get to the end of the game, where, so I guess the plot of Kingdom Hearts, the overall structure goes that there's like a prologue world that's completely original, and that's where all like the Final Fantasy people are hanging out. Then you go through a series of short Disney worlds, some of which got more love than others. Some of those are literally 3 rooms stitched together, especially in the beginning part. And then some of them are more in-depth. And the more in-depth ones alternate between, oh god, this is laid out like a maze and I hate it and it's so annoying to get through, especially if you're trying to look for collectibles, which you need to get the secret ending of the game. And, oh, this is just like a really tightly wound, like really well-designed RPG dungeon. And I overall think that there's more misses than hits, unfortunately, in that regard. I think that game has a lot of issues with just there being a lot of screens in those more complex worlds that look a little too similar to one another. It's very easy to get like looped back around to where you started and just feel like you're going in circles until you start to pay a little bit more attention than what I feel like you should need to for how those worlds are laid out. And then the end of the game, you get to another unique dungeon area that is fucking massive and feels like an honest-to-God, like, genuine, like, RPG end area. And it's pretty cool. Way more involved in terms of having to solve, like, puzzles to progress. The story starts to really pop off. And around that time, the game also opens up in a huge way because there's a bunch of super bosses you can do. And that's where the, like, RPG and action stuff really comes to a point where it's like you need to be mastering both of these things. Like, you need to actually worry about your equipment and kit out for these fights. You need to pay attention to what spells you're coming into these fights with. Some of them have unique gimmicks. Like, there's a Grim Reaper super boss that will steal and permanently delete one of your party members from the rest of the fight. Because you're fighting him in front of a clock tower, and you have to cast your stop magic on the clock so it stops ticking down, because when it ticks down all the way to 0, you lose a party member for the rest of the fight. And it's just cool. It's really neat. Same with, like, there's a Sephiroth fight that you really need to make, like, a particular build for and really pay attention to what abilities you're coming into the fight with. And all of that stuff is great. Unfortunately, this also coincides with the fact that towards the end of the game, like as soon as you get to the final area, it feels like every boss has way more health than they should have. And you're just chipping away at life bar after life bar.
Just for context, what difficulty are you playing at?
Normal.
Okay. So it'd probably be worse than hard.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Noted.
I was told that I'm gonna do critical for KH2 and KH3 first run, but I was told that maybe wait to do proud on like a second run of KH1 if you want to.
Is critical in KH1?
No.
Okay.
Critical was made for 2. So it just feels like a slog, and they do kind of have like second phases when they get lower on health, but it's never different enough to not feel like it really changes up the fight. And it just becomes a slog. Some of those fights were way more impressive as a child, and as an adult, I'm just like, I'm bored by the end of this. I'm just hitting X over and over again. And I feel like the game isn't asking too much of me in terms of like having to use magic or like platform around these arenas. Like I'm literally just like dodging their annoying attacks with the dodge roll. And then finding opportunities to mash the X button so I can hit them with the Keyblade, rinse and repeat until they're dead. The final boss in particular has like 8 phases, I want to say, and it's too much. It's really egregious by the end of that game. And I was laughing because I do know one of the major complaints people have about, like, 2 versus 1 is, like, oh yeah, like, 1 is firing on all cylinders, and, like, you really need to, like, use every aspect of the combat system to, like, win those fights. And in 2, like, they add these action commands that are extremely powerful and will, like, delete enemy life bars. And towards the end of KH1, I was going, sure would be nice if I had a button that would just delete 1 or 2 of these life bars, I'm not gonna lie. Oh god, it became a little slow. But yeah, I think overall it's a pretty solid action RPG. I enjoyed it, maybe a little bit less than when I was a kid. Actually, one other major point that I actually think I would say if I was reviewing this game and had to give it a numbered score, there's an item synthesis side quest you need to do to get the best version of the secret ending. And it added, I want to say, 12 hours of playtime to the end of the game, and it was not fun. It was not a fun 12 hours. It was going into specific rooms and specific worlds to get special enemies to spawn so that I could get a 15% drop. And by defeating special enemies, I mean, like, you have to play a dumb little mini-game half the time where they have unique mechanics that are kind of annoying to deal with. And you need to just do it way too much. I've actually been told that apparently the version I played as a kid, which was default base Kingdom Hearts, that item synthesis quest was much shorter, because at the end of it you get Sora's best Keyblade. And apparently when they did the final mix re-release, they made it way more in-depth and have way stricter requirements, and it just balloons the playtime way past the point where I was ready to be done with the game. So, like, I left it feeling very positive and up on it, but I also... I feel weird because I also kind of used to be one of those people that are like, oh yeah, I appreciate, like, it for being that, like, nice mix of, like, more platformery and kind of balancing the RPG with the action part of an action RPG. But playing it now as an adult, I just think maybe there's a reason this series got streamlined the way it did for 2 onward. And I do think maybe there is like a possible interesting evolutionary branch where this series could have progressed to maybe try to tweak the formula they had with 1, both in story being more of a simplified crossover like it was in that game, and also trying to be more of a hybrid than what ended up happening with 2 and what it seems like the rest of the games. But I don't know. I think that type of game is hard to make right. And it felt very inconsistent in a bizarre way that I don't think I've ever felt even from other action RPGs that maybe run into the same tensions. Like, oh yeah, go ahead.
I think my understanding is that 3 is a lot more of a hybrid than 2 is.
I feel like I've heard that as well, maybe a little bit.
Like, I've seen some LPs, and it's definitely a lot heavier on the platforming than 2 seems to be, so...
I have heard that the worlds get a little less flat when 3 rolls around.
I think part of that's, like, carry on. I know Dream Drop Distance has, like, some movement mechanics, but, like, I don't know how, like... I haven't seen as much of that game, so I don't know how the level design is, but I've seen, like, the level design in 3, and there's definitely a lot of verticality in that game, so...
Okay. I look forward to that, then. I'm sure that'll... I'm interested, because, like, I know a lot about the series just through friends and osmosis, but, like, I still have a lot of big gaps that, like, I know vaguely the plot of 358 over 2 days, but I don't know what happens in, like, any of the middle part of that game. Same with, like, Birth by Sleep. Like, honestly, I don't really know anything about Birth by Sleep other than, like, it's a prequel and you play as 3 different people, which sounds interesting to me. So I'm excited to get to all that stuff, but I do need to replay Chain of Memories, which I'm very excited to do. I'm going to play the Game Boy Advance version, because I have played both the GBA and PS2 versions of that game. That PS2 version fucking sucks. So I'll go back and I'll play it on GBA, and then I'll play KH2 and go from there, and I'll be all caught up and ready to go into the unknown realm of Kingdom Hearts that I did not experience when I was younger. So overall, fun time. I do recommend it, but I do also think that there is an idealized version of KH1 that maybe exists in some of the, like, discussion I've seen, where I'm just like, yeah, but I also feel like the way this game was designed also led to a lot of awkwardness and problems that I think are maybe unaddressed sometimes by people that are shooters for that game versus the rest of the series and how it went. So.
All right. Wow. The two of you making promises to eventually become Kingdom Hearts pilled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, God, I spent, like, an entire hour on just my shit alone. I am so fucking sorry.
Yeah.
It's more like 45 minutes.
Oh, yeah, I started recording super early. That's right.
That is okay. I am not touching Kingdom Hearts because I'm not out of my mind. I'm fine. I'm all right. You can all deal with that.
If it's good, I win.
Quickly, what's Kingdom Hearts
Light.
For the first game?
Light.
Okay. What is that?
Who cares?
Goodness.
Okay.
I think.
Cool. So, speaking of, I don't know what we could say that we're speaking of to shift in. There's no segue. Mel.
Yeah.
Do you have anything
Yeah.
else?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Go for it.
Okay, so I got 2 things before the shared thing.
Okay.
One, I finally finished and binged the last half of Apothecary Diaries.
Is that
Okay.
a show worth watching? Because it
Yes.
seems interesting.
Yeah, it's good. So I will say, I think I guess you call it medical mystery angle is definitely more of a... You're not solving any mysteries, I don't think, unless you somehow have a very specific knowledge of herbs and chemistry and stuff like that.
I see.
But most of the draw, I think, is just like the characters and the setting, and specifically like you still get to learn more about the 2 protagonists as they learn more about each other, because you don't entirely know their entire backstories at the start of the story, and like the layers get peeled back a bit more. So far, the back half of this show focuses on more like finding out about protagonist Mao Mao's heritage and stuff, and the interesting sort of stuff there. We get more teases of like the other protagonist, the male lead Jinshi, but not like full concrete stuff yet. Presumably that'll be later, because the second season to get announced, and there's also the novels, which seem cool, might be worth a read. And yeah, I just kind of like the cast of characters. They kind of like shenanigans in definitely not ancient China. I think a lot of the core theme of the show is about like patriarchy. I forget if I talked about it the last time the show's been brought up, but like it feels like
so. It's been a while.
Just to reiterate, like around the halfway point in the show, because Mao Mao is someone who is born and raised in sort of like the pleasure quarters district, and like the specific circumstances of that are expanded upon in the latter half of the show. But the start of the show is she's born and raised there. She has her sort of like found or like adoptive family of like the pleasure quarters women, and then she gets, I guess, kidnapped and sold to the Imperial Palace and works as a servant in the inner harem as an assistant to like the concubines, and so through that way she becomes entangled in both like her sort of like old family in like the pleasure district and her new sort of like friends and companions in like the Imperial Palace. And there's she goes back and forth between the two, like she interacts with both, so it's not like she's cut off from one. But that's kind of like the situation at the start of the show, just but there's halfway through the show, around midway point before it transitions to the second half of the show, there is the kind of this thesis statement made very explicit where it's like, well, if you think about it, these things are kind of the same, like the concubines and the pleasure quarters. Like obviously there's like the class difference of like and privileges that come with it, but just like the politicking and role of women and how they're treated by men as like objects is like affection, but also of desire, but also as like as things to possess. There's like the whole thing about like buying out women and stuff like that. Draws a parallel between like different circumstances and privileges, but also fundamentally the same in their like tenor and how they interact with like the politics of the male dominated world kind of thing. And I think that's interesting. I think that's kind of like what the main thrust of the show of the series is, as like how these women are interacting within the world they have, within the means they have. I think that stuff is interesting. I'm curious to see what the show, or I guess like maybe even what the novels will do as well, do that stuff in the future. Because
do they is there any tension between her having to exist in both of those two worlds, or is it more of a thing where like she's just making observations based on like, oh, I've spent my life here, but now I'm spending time like here in this other part of society?
Yeah, well, I think it's at the first it was kind of like a tension, but not real tension, where like, oh, because she was sold, she had to like fulfill her term before she could be allowed to go back to see her family. But that was like her attitude was kind of like, oh, what a shame, what a bother, I have to be stuck here kind of way. She didn't really care. But I think there's like different tensions. Like I think, because I think like the mid-season climax is about like her being like associated with like someone causing problems. I forget the specifics because I watched that in December. But the second half of the show is more about like her mother was a courtesan, and all the problems that comes with where he's like, oh, you're not supposed to have children in that situation. But also then it is revealed that like her biological father is like someone at the palace, and there's tensions that rise from that as we find out more about him, and it's sort of like unclear of like if he's a good or a bad person, and like what the circumstances of like her birth were. And I think that stuff is interesting and compelling.
Okay, so it sounds like a fun mix of like palace politics cross like familial like discovery and like drama.
Yeah,
so that does sound really interesting.
Yeah, and there's like stuff going on with like Jinchi, the head eunuch, who's like the male lead, and like weird stuff with like the Imperial bloodline stuff that we don't entirely know. They've been dropping hints of, but we don't entirely know the specifics of yet. Or there's some things I forgot as well too, because it's been a while. But yeah, I definitely think it's a worthwhile series, and I'm excited to check out the new season when it drops, and maybe I'll do the novel route. I have to be better at reading things. I mean to read like the Other Side picnic novels too, but I haven't got them yet. But yeah.
That sounds good. I do want to check that out at some point. That was one of those things that dropped, and then I saw the subject matter, and I'm going to wait to see how people feel about this.
Yeah, I recommend it. I think it's worth checking out. It's definitely one of the highlights of like that season, and it was also going up against like Frieren, so Another
thing I really need to get back to.
Yeah. I do think I like Apothecary Diaries more than Frieren, but that's also just maybe just personal tastes and stuff.
I do feel like that Apothecary Diaries sounds like a very us-coded show.
Yeah.
You've all got to stop promising to watch everything. You can't. Yeah. You can't. You have to stop doing this.
It's fun to dream.
I've been like, going through older episodes to like check which research I've already done on kaiju and stuff. I'd also add timestamps back in. And every so often I'll just hear Bryson like, oh, I'm going to get to that next. And it's something he's never gotten to.
Let's go. Like what? I'm curious. Was there anything that stands out?
I forgot specific ones.
Okay.
86.
Literally the first thing I think I talked about on this podcast.
I mean, 86 is probably one of them.
Right, here's the thing. Don't watch 86. You're good.
I was so close.
That was one of the
first. The second season's probably fine, but like,
Yeah.
There's better stuff.
Yeah.
You can always do better.
You can always do better.
Wait, hold on. What was this?
What was what?
Oh yeah, Dawn Brothers was one of them.
Oh yeah. Well, that was because I was gonna watch it with friends, and then that kind of fell through. So
yeah, that makes sense.
All right.
Yeah, and then I have one more thing. I don't know if I have as much to say about it.
Go for it.
So I watched an anime movie this week as well. This one is called. Let me just double check real quick, because there's like the name, and then there's like a longer version of the name that I don't see as much, but I did have it in my media thread, so just love.
If it's the one I'm thinking of, I saw you post the image with it, and I went, I've seen that Blu-ray cover so many times as, like, a recommendation, but I've never looked into it or, like, watched it.
Yeah, so the movie is called Arion, aka Near-Heroic Fantasia, Arion.
What's that?
It is a 1986 Sunrise animated movie, based on Greek myths and legends, directed, written, and character designs by our good friend Yas of Gundam The Origin fame.
I see.
Apparently also based off a manga that Yas did in the years leading up to it, which is 5 volumes, and I cannot corroborate this, but my impression is they tried to adapt all 5 volumes into a 2-hour movie.
Oh, Lord.
Because, damn, that pacing is kind of wild. I wouldn't say it's on the level of Shin Kamen Rider, but it does feel like we're just booking it through, like, set pieces with, like, only maybe the barest of threads of a narrative holding them together. I wouldn't say it's, like, incoherent, but it's kind of just, like, a very basic plot, and, like, it mostly seems to exist as a vehicle to get you from cool anime set piece to cool anime set piece, because this may be surprising to you, but like a Sunrise animated film in the year 1986 looks pretty damn good.
Yeah.
It is funny. The protagonist is the child of Poseidon, maybe, and Demeter, who is kind of tricked and absconded with by Hades, because there's, like, I think, like, the immediate aftermath of the Olympians taking over. Even though the movie still calls them all the Titans, don't worry about it. Or Tetons, I guess I should say. And then the background, the main plot of the movie is, like, it starts with, like, Zeus and Poseidon are going to war, and then Arion is, like, the hero character, and he doesn't have much of a character beyond that, being sort of thrust into the middle of it, and, like, doing cool fights, and going on a journey of, I guess, some sort of self-discovery. There's his twin sister, Lesafina, who is also his love interest, because I guess Greek myths.
It's mythology, I guess it's okay.
Actually, hold on. I need to show you this screenshot from the last, like, 20 minutes of the movie or so, I guess, where, like, he's giving us a big speech to people about how he's going to go kill Zeus. Gods in this movie die really quickly, by the way.
These are perfect. Thank you for these images.
C-Book? Arno?
Yeah, it's Yas.
Yeah.
What's even funnier?
What?
Arion's voice actor is Shozama, and then Lesafina's voice actress is Ciela Lopana.
Lol.
Much done by the way. But yeah, it's just, like, it is kind of fun. Apollo was the final boss for some reason. He kind of just extremely sucks, but so is everyone else. There's some interesting designs of just, like, just, like, seeing Gundam-esque designs for Greek myths. I don't have any screenshots on me at the moment, but just, like, Ares, for instance, looks like a fucking Kai Shinden motherfucker. And Athena looks basically like Cassilia Zavi, but, like, antiquity coded garb.
Yeah.
And it's kind of fun in that way. But yeah, it's, like, I think it's an entertaining watch. I don't know if it's hold your attention for a 2 hours watch, but I do think, if you just want to see some really cool fights in sort of, like, epic fantasy setting, and just, have them play around with that kind of, like, Greek mythos, then it's worth checking out. Maybe you can pick away at it. I'm not telling you how to watch a movie, but I think if you just yeah.
I decided to take a look and see how much the Blu-ray is, and then this was also in the search results.
Well,
Arion, daddy, accomplice, hero.
Well, he's not dead.
The word accomplice here raises so many questions.
Yeah. I have no idea what it's referencing.
This is one of those,
This seems fake.
One of those extremely, I don't know what the word is, because I don't want to say AI generated, but, one of those, novelty shirts with, replaced the name. For viewers at home wondering what I posted. It's like a shirt with the words red.
Red. Yeah.
Red. Yeah. My brain broke when I had to say that.
Red, and ready.
Printed on the front.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah. Arion, I don't think it's essential to watch, but I think it's, if you like Sunrise animation, especially of this era, and just I want to see something cool animated, then, there's value in watching this. It's 2 hours, so you can make a judgment of whether that's worth your time. Don't go in expecting a emotional core you'll get attached to. It's mostly just a aesthetic experience that's nice, I think.
Cool. All right. I believe we are at an hour. Do we want to talk about Girls Band Cry?
I think I want to quickly.
Okay, let's go. So we watched the anime Girls Band Cry, which was airing last season.
Yeah.
CG 3D CG anime.
Mostly
with a very new look for that kind of for CG. Very squishy, very cartoony. Big fan of it.
I think it looks good. I think there's some cases where a background character doesn't look as good, but mostly
there's a lot of whenever the OP started and I saw the characters as 2D anime characters, and I was like, no, that's wrong. Get that off my screen.
Yeah, it feels a little it feels a bit like that extremely high definition photo of Gabe Newell that's uncomfortable to look at. If that makes sense.
Does make sense. Yeah, I'm much more a fan of them when they are 3D and squishy. This is continuing the train of some kind of Dark Horse anime came out of nowhere and acquired some cult status off the back of being a girls band show.
Yeah.
The third one in 3 years.
I will say the cult status mostly comes from the fact that Toei just decided not to simulcast it.
Yes, this is true.
So
Girls Band Cry, yeah, there's slightly there's different degrees of their dark horseness across the three.
I imagine this would have taken off easily if it was a thing that was accessible. But
yeah.
The cult status definitely comes from people found it and it blew up anyway.
Yeah, and then meanwhile, Mygo is Bang Dream is an established, successful brand, but no one was watching Mygo, and then suddenly everyone who watched Mygo was like, hey, this is a show, and then Bocce the year before,
Bocce, the one where the girls aren't terrible to each other,
and then next year Ave Musica.
That's kind of cheap.
So. It's listen.
We should do the Ave Musica spoiler cast.
Yeah, we'll see how that one goes. One of the things that I really liked about Mygo was that it was the grounded nature of the it was melodrama, but within a very grounded confines. And Ave Musica does not seem grounded. It's
intentional contrasting.
Yeah, there's an intentional contrast there, and I'm
also
we'll see.
Put in that specific point about grounded melodrama, because I want to loop back to it after you finish, your initial thoughts on the show.
Okay, Girls Band Cry is about Nina. She rocks up in Tokyo, having run away from home for reasons that I won't necessarily get into details of, because like I say, this is a show that not everyone has necessarily watched, but is kind of been a quiet hit with with a certain group of people over here in the English speaking world, and she wants to start a band. Well, not initially. She just wants to go to college. But she meets Momoka, who is a member of a band that she was a really big fan of, and she's quit that band for reasons. And Nina and her start a band, and acquire Subaru and two more later, Tomo and Rupa, and they do band stuff, and they have a lot of melodrama.
Well, yeah, they do band stuff.
Yes, they do band stuff. What did you want to say something about grounded drama?
So I feel like there's like a grounded. Well, the show definitely has its own sense of melodrama, but I did feel like there was a groundedness to the dialogue and the way characters interacted that I liked personally. And some of that comes.
I'm the reverse, but I will listen to this.
Well, some of that also comes from the fact that me watching a show, I was pairing it with another show that was airing this season called Jellyfish Can't Swim in the Night, which is a show about a normal girl who bumps into a former idol from a band that was really successful that she's no longer a part of, and then they form an artist group of some kind. Sounds familiar?
I see.
And it was
same show, kind of.
Yeah, and so my plan was like I'm just going to watch the show two together and talk about them as a pair. And so I'm just going to staple whatever things I have to say about Jellyfish onto this discussion, because I'm set. My experience is watching them together, and also I don't have enough to say about Jellyfish to treat it as its own thing. So I finished Girl Band Cry and also Jellyfish yesterday in pro-registration today, and most of what I can say is that I liked Girls Band Cry because I liked, definitely is melodramatic, but it definitely, I felt like it was a stronger written show throughout, and I liked it continuously as the show reached its conclusion, whereas Jellyfish I liked at the start, and then it started to lose me when it started feeling like kind of trite, I guess, or really like the melodrama felt like I think it used to. So you made a tweet about Girls Run Cry where it's like every speech feels like everyone clapped, kind of.
I think there's a degree of r/everyone clappedness to Girls Band Cry.
I think that's a bit more in Jellyfish in comparison. Derogatory. There's like a degree to which that show just kind of like towards the end it just kind of feels like the characters kind of do things that are kind of cartoonishly awful, and then the resolution seems to be, oh, it's fine actually, and there isn't actually dealing with that in a way that's satisfying at all. It's just kind of like, oh yeah, it's fine, it's good now actually. And I don't know, there's just like ways in which things got leaked on social media and it's evil kind of thing that just like felt kind of, it just kind of lost me. And unlike Girls Band Cry, where it just felt like more consistent in like, yeah, this is good, like not without flaws. Like I feel like most of the people around me are kind of like, oh, Girls Run Cry is like 10 out of 10, my new favorite thing, and I'm like, I'm not on that level, but I'm still like, yeah, it's good. I liked it. It was pretty good.
Yeah, I'm definitely not. I'm like, so it's funny that you added derogatory onto, everyone clapped for Jellyfish. I mean it derogatory about Girls Band Cry.
I'm feeling it.
I fundamentally like Girls Band Cry. It was playing a real from the moment Nina got onto her whole "we're going to beat Diamond Dust" thing, I was it was like a high wire act the whole way to the very end, because I was like, you better not, because that's not how the world works. I was like, you can't, no, come on, learn your lesson. But I do, mostly just like this show. I like the characters. But for some reason, in the first, I think 8 episodes, every time there is any kind of drama between characters, there's an 80% chance that it's in front of
it's
a confrontation in a public space. And I was like, listen, this happens sometimes. Why is it every time? Why is it like this? What is the thing? And it's weird because it's kind of like, it's like the idea that this is embarrassing isn't real in the show. Because I've been trying to think about.
Sometimes in a few cases they do draw attention to it, but more in a tongue-in-cheek way than it's actually embarrassing.
Yes, this is it's a mutual friend of ours, who I'm in ideological struggle with, as she is pro Girls Band Cry and less into MyGo, and I am pro MyGo and I'm slightly less into Girls Band Cry, I'm trying to find the reason why I like the bits in MyGo where it's like this embarrassing drama has happened in front of an audience, and why I literally skipped through some scenes in Girls Band Cry. I couldn't watch them. I could not watch them. I couldn't take it.
I think some of the scenes in Jellyfish are a bit more cringe. Just oh.
Yeah. But it was, I think it's just the idea that, in MyGo, there's this recognition that this is embarrassing. And, that the audience, are people who can react to what you do, and that you can react to their presence. And there's, this sense that the characters in Girls Band Cry don't have any reaction to the presence of the general public, in a way that was bizarre to me. But
except for when Subaru's there's a play, don't worry about it.
Subaru's add lampshading it a little, but a little bit of tongue-in-cheekness to it. But I struggled with a lot of that, but that's fine. It's because I think the actual drama between the characters is good. I think Nina and Momoka's conflict over Diamond Dust is fantastic.
I think it's well done.
Yeah, I love it when
I did like the the writer of the show being I wanted to give more to the other characters, but Nina was so much like that she ended up taking over the entire script.
Yeah, that makes sense. I love the whole thing with Momoka explaining why they started the band, and the sort of explanation of why it's not really that that Diamond Dust betrayed Diamond Dust. It was she betrayed Diamond Dust by leaving. It's this I think in a show, it's very easy to do the girl, there's the Kong Ming show where it's the girls, they sold out, and this is impure. This is there are impurities in their music now, because they're trying to sell well, and that's wrong. And Nina kind of has that perspective and is fucking stupid because of it.
Yeah, I remember actually on that note, I remember making a shit post. I was like, well, it's funny we have both Girls Band Cry and Jellyfish in the same season with troubled artists trying to make it big doing music. If only they had some sort of like second century strategist.
Life would be so easy if Kongming could help me make my decisions for me. But and so I very much appreciate this show for having not pulling like, oh yeah, the girls in Diamond Dust are they're not really committed to music because they've sold out. I think that shit is stupid.
I mean, Nina does always have her own also warped, twisted personal connection to things. Yes, she does. So, okay. There is I have a favorite episode and a least favorite episode. My favorite episode, like, my favorite character is Subaru. My favorite episode is the Tomo episode. Where it's, like, her dealing with the fact that she's kind of like a music prodigy and, like, she has advice that she wants to give, but she's really bad at giving advice. Oh, yeah, that was a good one.
And is, like, she wants to say you're not doing it properly, and like people don't respond well to that, and it's like her nerves around, like, she has contributions she wants to make, but she's worried she's gonna piss people off, and I thought that episode was fantastic. My least favorite episode is the family episode.
Oh, I like the family episode. I know. I mostly just liked her interactions with her parents in that one episode.
It's like, I don't like her dad. I
also think maybe this is a case where my framing of watching this alongside Jellyfish tempers things, because in Jellyfish, the one person's mom is like a cartoon villain.
Okay.
And then meanwhile, it's like, oh, her dad isn't great, but he is like a complex person with like emotions. They have a conversation about it.
This is there's like more going. There's like stuff going on here that I think is interesting.
Like in Jellyfish, for context, like the sort of like lead former idol's mom is like the one who runs her former idol group, and she's like a really ruthless music industry career professional kind of person thing, which leads to complications. And meanwhile, this guy's just like, he's a
daddy fucked up.
Yeah, he's a daddy fucked up. And he's kind of like stuck in his own head about like family stuff, and you have to have a conversation about that, which I think is like obviously one of the things I like better than the other.
Yeah, the thing about I have seen people saying like, oh, it'll be nice if we get like a season 2 of Girls Band Cry. I think if they wanted to do a season 2 of Girls Band Cry, they maybe wouldn't have tied off every loose end with like a bow. Like, Nina is like a character who's like mad. She's mad about shit. She's right to be mad about it. And then like, well, a lot of it, some of it less, but that's okay. And then at the end of the show,
Dong Xiaobing says Nina is 70% correct, 30% wrong.
Yes, but she gets, by the end of the show, she's cool with everyone she was mad at. Literally everyone.
Yeah.
There's no one left that she's mad at, and it's like, I think we're done here.
Yeah, I think it would have been nice to have like more about the other characters, but I guess you'd have to make a new entire conflict for that, and maybe it's like, well, you could do like side stuff to flesh out those characters.
Mm-hmm. I think it would have been nice if we got a Rupa episode, because she's extremely just mysterious, tied to Tomo, and it's just like, oh, she's got this like tragic backstory, and I'm like, she like talks about it. Okay, like,
yeah, Rupa was like the biggest casualty that the director, the writer, like specifically mentioned, like, yeah, we wanted to do one about her, and then we just gave more to Nina just because,
man, get a grip. Like, they're your characters. You do actually have control over them. But I think that's a loss. Because I think Rupa and Tomo are great. And obviously, number one, Subaru, thank you for everything.
Funny
Subaru.
faces, girl.
Rich girls in real life, no, bad. Rich girls in anime, now we're talking.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about.
Unless they're in your S5 precure.
Unless you're in Yes 5 pre. Well,
I'll probably
so
like
long
those
as
characters.
so long as the rich girls don't have an episode about how austerity is necessary, it's fine. It's such Yes 5 so bizarre. It's fine. But yeah, I think it's I think it's weird. It's a little comical that like I think every possible hint of drama left is like wrapped up at the end of the show. There's no loose, like no one is mad about anything anymore. And I think they like end on a note where it doesn't really matter what happens to the band from here on. Like they've reached the conclusion of Girls Band Cry. Right, it's like whether they're a success or like remain like or the band fails. That's kind of irrelevant to the tone of the ending.
Season 2 should be called Girls Band Angst.
Girls Band Angst.
Yeah, because they need to follow up GBC with GBA.
Oh, you're right. Absolutely. And then they'll make a prequel called Girls Band.
The sequel to Girls Band Angst is a drum solo.
Yep. Oh, Subaru show. Let's go. Yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on Girls Band Cry.
Yeah, I feel like I don't have much more to add beyond that. Part of the reason why I was like happy to attack my discussion onto yours because I was feeling like going through them myself. I was like, I don't know if I have much to say because like Jellyfish is falling off anyone with Girls Band Cry. I was like, yeah, it's good. That's my thoughts.
Mm-hmm. That's your thoughts.
Yeah.
Sometimes show's just good. The show is good. People should watch it, even if only to see what that 3D CG looks like, because it's new, it's fresh, it's good. I like it. If I was to rank the girls band shows as of right now, all three are good, but I think Girls Band Cry is third. Bocce's. I don't know.
Bocce's kind of just different because it's just like a gag thing.
Yeah, true. But my goes it's my goat.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
I think if we ever have like a podcast argument, we need to make sure it's public and recorded.
I would die. I would die on the fucking spot. That's it's my go. You just have that on hand.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah. All right. Well, I think that might be it.
Yeah.
Sick. Well,
see you next week.
We can talk. See you next week. That's the podcast. We can talk about Ultraman. So episode 41 of Ultraman is called Winter Horror Series Scary Story Lion Drum, featuring the evil god Choju Kaimanda and Lion Choju Sisigoran.
I'm just gonna say at the top.
Mm-hmm.
I barely remember these episodes. So
when did you watch them?
Early in the week, but also I was
okay.
half paying attention.
Okay. So Dan is playing hide and seek and pairs off with a kid named Shinta to go hide. They come across Shinta's dad praying to a god called Kaima, and they head off in the other direction. The dad was injured by some random strangers while he was doing the lion dance, and the lion dance wards off evil spirits. It's like a traditional thing, and it consists of one person in a cloak with a lion mask doing the dance, and another person playing the drums. Shinta's dad has a bad leg now and can't dance anymore, and he prays to Kaima for vengeance. Dan and Shinta find a spot to hide, and this time they also find a lion mask. Shinta puts it on and decides to play Choju instead of hide and seek. The boys all play fight Shinta, declaring themselves to be Ultraman Ace, Ultra 7, and the father of Ultra. And Dan claims to be a fucking nerd, going, be careful, Shinta, you might break the mask. Hokuto rocks
None
up
of these children respecting Zoffy.
I think Shinta explicitly says, "I don't care."
She's just like, I don't care. No, none of them was Zoffy. You're right. Put some respect on Zoffy's name. Hokuto rocks up to investigate trace readings of a Choju in the area, and Dan and his friends volunteer to help. Shinta tries to put the lion mask back, but it won't come off. His dad arrives to help, and the lion's eyes flash red. Suddenly possessed, Shinta's dad picks up the drums and starts playing. The mask transforms into the giant Choju Sisigaran, with Shinta trapped somewhere inside, and his dad leading the way, playing the drums as they all head into town to cause havoc. Hokuto tells the children to run, and Dan says, "No, I'm not a child. I'm the 6th Ultra Brother. I will not abandon Shinta." Thank you, Dan. The crew launches, but nobody fires on the Choju because obviously there's a child inside. Hokuto confronts Shinta's dad, who then runs away, his leg now magically fine, leading everyone, Choju included, to a second Choju. It's Kaimanda, the Choju of that god Kaima. Kaimanda is the orchestrator of this incident. Hokuto dodges a bunch of fire, like loads of fire. He's dodging fire all the time, and then transforms into Ace to fight the two Choju. Ace defeats Kaimanda, and now he just has to figure out how to deal with Sisigaran without killing Shinta. While Ace is fighting, the crew finds the dad, and Captain Ryu stops Yamanaka from shooting him, saying, "Watch this," and shoots the drum instead. This frees the dad from the possession, but does nothing to Sisigaran. Ace is on the ropes, and then suddenly a flash of inspiration. A way to defeat Sisigaran without risking the life of Shinta. He punches Sisigaran with superheated fists, and then shoots it with the Jesus beam. Ace? This somehow doesn't kill Shinta. Father and son are reunited, dad's leg is better, and he does the lion dance for the crew in TAC HQ as thanks and apology in one. Dan says, "Hey Shinta, don't break that mask." Shut up, Dan. The end.
Okay.
Mel, play the thing.
Okay, let me just...
I believe in miracle.
Ultraman, thank you!
it won't be the first time you hear it. It won't be the last time you hear this episode.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we got a medical miracle in here. The dad's fine. Now, how is the kid fine? How's the kid fine?
Jesus magic don't hurt innocent children.
That kid should be dead.
Don't worry about
That
it.
kid should be fucking dead. He shot him. He's spent that whole fight like, I can't shoot him. It will kill the child. And then he's like, I know, and then shoots it. It's like, you killed the child. And the child's fine. Stupid. However, the rest of this episode is a fine horror story about like the whole when he can't get the mask off. I was like, oh, this is that's the good horror shit.
I feel like this is the one that stuck out with me the most.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, no.
Yeah,
I have stuff about next week. The next one I also remember, but
I would not necessarily describe the next two as being part of like a horror series.
Yeah.
In the way that this one is.
yeah, this one did cool stuff with the mask being like stuck to the kid.
Mm-hmm.
I had a weird issue with this episode, and I feel like you won't hear me say this often recording this podcast, but I kind of wish this one was a little less silly, and they played into the horror more of like, his dad is responsible for this, like, and
oh yeah.
They played the dad as comic relief, like especially with like him like banging the drum and like that sort of stuff or whatever. And it's like, oh, like they played as kind of like haha, he got his son trapped as like the monster thing. But if they wanted to go the complete opposite direction of this and make it into like lean into, oh god, I can't take this off, and my dad's weird wishes for like, you know, vengeance or whatever end up also like having a horrible impact on his son, I think they could have told a pretty good story there. And I was just towards the end of the episodes, especially as the dad gets more and more unhinged, I'm like, I kind of wish he was more of a villain. A little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the as it stands, it's like we kind of like the moment we get like the horror introduced, we then move on to Choju stuff, like almost immediately.
Mm-hmm.
Which is like is kind of disappointing. I would rather get more of the because like when we start dealing with like the mask stuck to him, we start to amp up the vibe on like how the episode is shot. It starts getting they start having a little more fun, and then we get to giant monsters, and it's like, oh, we're back. Everyone relax. Everything's.
Don't worry, it's a regular Ultraman show. It'll be okay. You can watch it.
It's a regular Ultraman show. Ultraman will kill the monster. It's fine. So yeah, I can definitely, see that it's not quite up to scratch necessarily.
I did think it was funny during the fight after like dodging all the fire or whatever. Like the first thing he immediately does before wrestling with the Choju is he puts out the fire on his back because he has like a big like I'm sure there's like a proper religious iconography term for this. I'm probably like it's eluding me right now, but he has like a big wheel behind him. With like
the tabletop role playing game, the burning wheel.
Burning wheel
by that asshole.
Yeah, but he Ultraman like takes out the fire, and I'm just like, oh, I really love the like practical actual filmmaking side of this, where they went, okay, we are not wrestling when there's fire on this thing's fucking back. Are you like, we got to put that shit out first.
Yeah,
very funny to me.
Yeah,
I thought this one was just kind of like, it's fine.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel.
It's nothing to write home about.
That's kind of how I feel about this stretch of show. It's like, yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, it's all right. It's all right. Who made it? Who made this episode?
Directed by Toshitsugu Suzuki and then written by Toshiro Ishido.
Sick. Mal.
Special effects director is Koichi Kawakita. Kai Menda, which is the fire wheel kaiju, is done by Akihiko Oguchi. It's meant to evoke like Buddhist statues with a wheel and fire imagery.
Mm-hmm.
We have Shishi Goran, which they didn't really give a designer on the wiki, so rip. But we also have like two guys, so you can guess between. It's probably one of them. And obviously, based on sort of like a lion theme. Apparently, the lion's dance was a thing that originated in China, but like spread to Japan as things do. I also got some suit actor details. Tetsu Kaiwai has been a recurring actor in the show. He was the main kaiju suit actor for episodes 1 to 12, and then again from 25 to 39. I forgot to mention last week, he was not the suit actor for episode 40, but he was the suit actor for one of the kaiju in this episode, and he'll continue to be one of the suit actors for kaiju until episode 47, where he'll stop being in the show, basically.
Okay.
And the other guy is Kenichi Kasumi, who was a suit actor for episode 40, and then also this one. I don't have much of a bio on this guy other than he was doing suit acting in his college days, which I guess would be now. But then at some point in the 80s, he got into the adult industry. So, different kind of acting, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Wow. What else is going on in this episode? I
feel like
not
starting
much.
with this episode, maybe not this one so much as the next two, I feel like they're starting to decenter Dan a little bit more. Like,
maybe
not this one, but like next week. I felt like this run, it feels like the amount of time we spend with Dan specifically, I feel like is getting a little lessened.
These are definitely not like big Dan episodes.
No.
if he shows up and announces that he's the 6th Ultra Brother, I count that as like, get out of here, Dan. I don't want to see you. I don't want to think about you.
He feels like now he's a conduit for introducing other children with weird issues.
Honestly, good role. Good job, Dan. Well done. Thank you for introducing. Why do you have so many weird friends?
He has a lot of weird friends.
To be fair, Jiro had some weird friends too, but Dan's are probably weirder.
Yeah, Jiro had that friend who drew a kaiju on the wall. And watched a kaiju get a baby little mini kaiju get blown up together.
And then he took the meat of the baby and put it on the wall.
Yeah. Shouldn't you... Crazy execution.
Number 15, Kaiju Baby Wall Meat.
Kaiju Baby Wall Meat.
I should have used the baby version of Kaiju in this order. Doesn't actually matter, but...
It would have been so high.
Yeah.
It would have gone so
I can't believe
list.
I ruined it just by putting the wrong photo.
Damn.
It's fine. I think our opinions on those change after the fact anyway.
Yeah, we might not have anything more to say about this episode.
No,
unfortunately. This show is so light now. Okay.
Yeah, this one felt very obligatory. Of just like,
you know what?
It's
good we managed to get an hour and a half out of other shit.
Yeah.
Episode 42, Winter Horror Series Mystery. Kaiju Wu rises again.
I don't think this is a mystery.
This is not a mystery. This is not a mystery. This is false advertising. This is not a mystery. You see everything happen and are not asked to piece anything together.
Nope.
A girl... Okay, I do have... a girl named Koyuki and her father, Ryohei, are crossing through the snowy... is it like Ida Pass?
Yes.
With double I? Okay. Through the snowy Ida Pass by foot, heading to Ida Village to visit Koyuki's grandfather, who she has never seen. They sing a song about a boy who brings the hail and talk about all the fun things they're going to do, which includes hunting rabbits, and the girl's really enthusiastic about it, pretty metal. But they suddenly find themselves in the presence of the Choju Ice Ron, which causes an avalanche after Ryohei, her dad, shoots at it. Koyuki and her father are both left collapsed in the snow, and the villagers, nearby, I say nearby, they're near the village, they run off, remarking that, the god of Ida Pass must be angry. Hokuto is on a ski holiday with Dan and his sister in the same village, and Dan can't ski, and they meet the grandfather of Koyuki. Word comes in about the Choju, and Hokuto insists on going out to investigate the pass, as he's a master of tack, don't you know? Hokuto and the grandfather find Koyuki and bring her back, and it's only after she wakes up that her grandfather realizes who she is, and that her father, his son Ryohei, is missing in the pass too. He insists it's too dangerous to go, though perhaps he's trying to convince himself as well. The crew get called in, fail to find the Choju, and start arguing with the little girl about what happened, which is incredible. Thank you guys. Koyuki spends her time by the window singing the song about the boy that brings the hail, and Dan and his sister aren't taking this situation well, as they're still vulnerable about their father's death. This is maybe the first time this show has remembered that Dan's sister has a character. I don't know her name still. Koyuki's
Kimiko? Kyoko?
Could be.
I think it's indicting of the show, but also us a bit.
Yes. It's a little bit indicting of me. I'll take it.
It's Kyoko.
Oh, okay.
Kayoko.
Okay. Koyuki's grandfather says he's just going to step outside for a bit, and Koyuki insists on coming with him. Hokuto follows, and just as he thought, they're heading into the pass to find Ryohei. The two find the body of Ryohei and also find the Choju Ice Ron. But Ryohei gets up, turns into the Kaiju Wu, and fights Ice Ron. But Kaiju aren't as strong as Choju, we've established this, and Wu is defeated, but does not get his lower jaw torn off. He gets stuck under a snowdrift, but at least manages to hold off Iceron until Hokuto can turn into Ace and get Koyuki and her grandfather to safety. Honestly, he could turn into Ace sooner.
He's got to start blasting.
Wu has to earn it. He has to
earn it. Wu has to earn it, but when Dan's dad tries to earn it, that's no. Ace then fights and defeats Iceron, burying the Choju under an avalanche. Wu gets up and walks away into the snowy mist, and Koyuki's grandfather remarks that Ryohei saved them both. The crew laments that the Choju has taken Koyuki's father from her and pledged to destroy every last Choju in existence. They rescue Hokuto from the snow and listen to Koyuki as she sings the song again. The end. So Wu is a guy.
Yeah. Remember how fucked up that episode was? There's one.
I do remember how fucked up that the Wu episode was. I do.
That was the one where that one outsider girl just like dies, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They just like they just like leave and they're like, oh, the day is saved, and meanwhile they just see her corpse in the snow at the end.
They don't invite her in at the end and cut her hair and offer her a job in the rescue team. They don't do that.
Yeah.
So the dad turning into Wu and fighting that I didn't, obviously I was like, oh, Wu's gonna be in this episode. I don't know how. Wasn't expecting this. This is a fine way of putting Wu into the thing. It like reinforces the fact that Wu is kind of like connected to people in the mountain,
it's like,
in like the mountains in winter.
It's very much like a ghost snow kaiju thing.
Yeah, Wu has ghostly stuff around him all the time. And I appreciate that about Wu. I like Wu. I'm a fan. I'm a Wu fan.
No Wu wins beats that one in Ultra Fight where he's just jamming and then he just starts a fist fight because someone steps on his stuff.
Yeah.
It is weirdly funny just how like prevalent Wu is in Ultra Fight for some reason.
It must be one of the easy ones. It must be one of the ones that's not like a problem to be in. It must be one of the ones that like the suit actors are like.
It must be one of the ones where like it wasn't.
Can I wear
totally
the Wu suit? Oh, what was that? Sorry.
It must be one of the ones where the suit wasn't totally fucked up.
Yeah.
True.
And I feel like also
they only used it once. Yeah.
I feel like it's one of those suits that if it is fucked up, you can hide it easily because it's got a shit ton of hair on it.
Yeah. The weird thing
That's
about
true.
like the Ultralight one is like the ones in like the proper shows, like the hair is really fine, whereas like the texture of the one in Ultrafight looks like it's a mop.
Yeah. We've told you what the last episode of Ultrafight is, right?
Yeah, I remember you brought it up to Brad once.
Yeah,
Brad should
they
go watch
they
those.
They fight in the in like the storeroom with all the suits.
Yeah,
It's pretty good.
It's pretty good. TAC, so they're just still on their shit all the time. They never believe anyone about anything. They can't be bothered. Kono, like talking to this child about, like, now, are you sure, what happened? And she's like, well, the monster caused an avalanche. And then he's like, oh, so an avalanche got your dad, not a Choju. And I'm like, you're a motherfucker. You're a real piece of work.
Yep.
God damn. Yeah. Go for it.
Had a little bit of... So I think this is my favorite episode this week, maybe. But also I couldn't escape the feeling that... I think we've touched on this before, but I feel like this is an episode of television, and this is written the way it is because your audience is familiar with this style of episode, and they almost in a roundabout way don't feel like committing to having to do the work to tell...
They let the audience fill in the gaps, basically.
Yes, exactly. Like, I felt like this wasn't a complete rendition of this story almost. And it's because it feels almost as if it was made like, oh, this is kind of like a folktale, like rural village horror-y type of Ultraman story. And we're gonna have the thing with like the ghost of her dad, like, you know, that sort of thing or whatever, coming in as Wu or whatever. And it just felt like they didn't really feel committed to doing the full work to make it hit as something like the first Wu episode did for us. And I was a little bit bummed by that. Because I overall think I like this episode, but I do also feel like sometimes they're leaning on episodes they've done before and the audience's familiarity as a crutch almost to feel like they can maybe cut corners a bit in writing these characters that are new for these episodic plots.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it feels like the last few weeks I have wrapped up my summary and then we've started talking and then like 30 seconds later we're like, wait, is that it?
Yeah.
And it's kind of bleak.
Yeah.
And it, like, we've seen all this before is the problem. You know what I mean?
We 3 more weeks.
Our enthusiasm somehow, like, it's like coming off like the big episodes where Ace like injured us was like we had a lot to say. We don't have a lot to say about this.
Yeah, it's just like, yeah, it's like people have said, and we said, it's like they're doing like Return of Ultraman again, but you know,
without sauce.
Yeah, like
there's no flavor here.
There's none like the like even they even
I
have
like
like
Hideki. I like Hideki Go.
Yeah. That's a guy.
Yeah.
I don't like Hokuto. Hokuto is like has been like
It's
8
my goal.
8 different guys.
It's like, thank you, Belle. I don't think Brad will have got that.
No, I don't hear any of the sound clips. Because of
well,
the backup recording.
I'm gonna be able to put that in.
Okay.
I'm so pleased. I'm so pleased. But
I knew it'd come in handy to have it just on hand.
The fucking Hokuto has been like 8 different guys throughout this show. And the you know, pick one. Pick who he is. Who the fuck is this man?
He's divorced.
This is
in a
he's
weird way, he
divorced.
has less character than Shin Hayata, who like is almost interesting for how much of a blank non-person he is.
Yeah, like
him. There is more source to Hayata rocking up at the end of Ultraman, looking up in the sky and going, "What the? That looks like the orb I was chasing in episode 1."
Yeah, like
there is to Hokuto having like a new backstory. Hokuto is okay. I am keeping up with A More Civilized Age. Hokuto is Sabine Wren, who is the character in Rebels who is a Mandalorian who went to the Imperial Academy and was also a bounty hunter, and is now a rebel. And every time they don't have anything for her because they shuffled some stuff around in pre-production, and they don't have anything left for her. And so every time they want to do a Sabine thing, they're like, well, we have to give her more. We have to give her something, and they give her a new thing. And every time they do, it's just like, you've made this character more ridiculous. Okay. Every time, you can't stop. This is Hokuto. Yeah,
this is a complete tangent from what you were saying, but like based on sort of like, you know, we have some understanding that this is like a franchise that gets deep into the lore, right? And so I want your predictions. Because I don't know the answer to this either. This isn't thinking. I'm just like random thought I had. How likely is it that the Ultra series has his own form of Sifo-Dyas?
Oh, to try like every time they come back to try to explain what the deal is with Sifo-Dyas, and they just make it more complicated.
I mean, you can read into it whatever you want. I'm just saying. I just think the idea that like they took the pseudonym but made it a real character maybe is really fun.
Cypher Diaz, character who is alluded to as either a character or not a real person in Attack of the Clones, is now a real person. Was Dooku's best friend.
Same.
And had like crazy visions about how the world was going to go, and then there's a whole thing about like Cypher Diaz ordered a clone army for the Republic. And every time Dave Filoni and his boys have gone back to be like, we're gonna answer the question of what the deal is with Cypher Diaz ordering a grand army for the Republic. By the end of the thing where it's supposed to explain how what happened and what went down, I'm sat at the end of that going, I have more questions.
Because my impression of the Cypher Diaz thing is if it just is cleaner if it's just a pseudonym for Palpatine.
Absolutely. Cypher Diaz is absolutely cleaner if it's just a pseudonym for Count Dooku. Like it's just so much easier. It's just like it's stupid. They keep being like, this was a guy and he was anyway.
So that's my thing is I don't know if we have enough of an ongoing story yet, and I don't know if we'll get one to have
the thing is,
a character of that magnitude.
We don't know necessarily about magnitude, but we will see how the lore develops and if we have an equivalent thing, whatever that is.
If there's weird, confusing lore stuff, I feel like it's going to be about what the Land of Light is, or like what the Ultra home planet / nebula, whatever thing is like. Which I'm sure that, or like, I think we joked about this way early on, like Ultra Q Ultraman, but like I can see some Galaxy Brain writer being like, what if a bunch of these alien civilizations were in like a big intergalactic war with each other, and gets like way too deep into caring about that shit. I can see that too.
That said, I would like an Ultra Series space opera thing, personally.
Now I can't wait to go to the Land of Light and find out that they've got an Arc de Triomphe. They've got an Eiffel Tower. It's just that they rocked up at Earth one time and they were like, oh damn, they got Paris too? We like this place. Let's go.
Land of Light has its own pandas. It doesn't need to steal them.
It doesn't need to steal pandas.
They do look like guys in suits though, for some reason.
They're called Pandamon. Because
Yeah. They've got the racist World of Warcraft panda region.
Oh yeah.
I'm not familiar, but this is very believable to me.
A Mists of Pandaria is the name of the expansion.
Oh yeah. Okay, I have heard of that.
Yeah. What were we talking about?
I don't know.
We were talking about Cypher Diaz. Why did we do? Because I talked about Hokuto being Sabine Wren.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because like somehow Hayata is more of a character by being completely flat.
By being not a character.
Yeah.
Yes.
And meanwhile, Hokuto is just like a hodgepodge of different.
A bedwetting juvenile delinquent who wants to be a biker.
Who is also friends with the bullied kid in class.
Who's also
and also delivers bread to orphans.
He delivers bread
and
to
also
orphans.
Joined TAC 3 years ago.
He joined TAC 3 years ago. Before Hideki was Ultraman. This show's a fucking joke.
The TAC 3 years ago thing, I think, has superseded the Matt base not being underwater in terms of continuity errors.
This show's a fucking joke. Okay. Was there anything else to say about this episode? Did we say who made it?
No. So this was directed by a new guy, Hidetaka Ueno. Don't get too excited. He seems to be one of the long list of directors and writers brought onto the show when they're like, fuck, we just need people. He did a few other episodes around the same era of like random TV dramas and stuff. He also seems to be superseded in both English and Japanese search results by there's a doctor who's written a lot of papers with the same name, and I do not believe he's the same person. But it was kind of hard finding shit that this guy did. I think he was just kind of like a workman director who like worked in TV for a little bit and then left.
It would be funny sometimes that just sometimes it is just true.
It is just the same guy.
Like I think I saw it once. Like there is one guy who was a writer who also became like a dental technician later, right?
Yeah,
but also recently, the past week, I saw like a text blurb someone wrote about like, "Alright, here's my like perfect, ideal like dream team of cricket players," and like one of them was like, "Oh wait, that guy's coincidentally the same name as like the former Pakistani prime minister," and looked it up. It's like, no, it's just that guy. He used to play cricket.
This kind of happened with me when I was looking into Eizo Yamagiwa, because the actual Wikipedia references to his Shinrikyo stuff is like very scant and like a throwaway paragraph. But then if you go look at like actual scholarly articles and histories of the situation, he is brought up a lot. And like that's the only reason that I even found that stuff was because it came up in searches, and I was like, surely this can't be the same guy. And then I looked, I went, no, it is absolutely specifically the same guy. Ridiculous. Then it was also written by Shigemitsu Taguchi.
Okay.
Yeah. On my end, Koichi Takano is the special effects director. Iceron was designed by Yoshio Suzuki. And of course, Wu is Wu. Whenever I do runback trivia, whenever that is, you'll get the details on that. And yeah, there's a suit actor. Well, there's Tetsu Kaiwa again, but he again, as I said, he'll be on until episode 47. But for this episode only, there is a guy called Ko Taiji, and that's all I got it on that end. They didn't really say who was in what suit, but just know there's two kaiju this episode. So.
All right. Wow. What else is going on in this episode? I mostly just I quite like the drama with like the girl missing her dad, and the Dan and his sister touches are good. I think it's good that someone remembered as like, oh, these characters have character. There is something to them.
So this is not true from like a enjoying unhinged writing standpoint, but from like a human emotion standpoint, it is better that like Dan is with his sister and not just some random girl who gets pawned off on her by Ultraman.
Yeah.
Lol.
That is true.
Rumika's got the worst deal of any character in Ultraman. Just like acquired a kid, no fault of her own. She's just like no intention. Like there's nothing. It's just like, I just have to deal with having a child now. Are you fucking joking?
That's pretty rough.
Do you think Rumiko had like the conversation like Go did with that one episode where they were like, call me Oni-chan now, and like he was like, no.
Oh, she had to be like, you can't call me older sister. You can't do that.
She gets called Aniki instead.
Hell yeah. Do we want to move on into episode 43?
I mean, maybe we can talk about Cypher DS more on.
The next episode of Ultraman Ace episode 43, Winter Horror Series Scary Story Yeti's Cry, featuring Blizzard Choju Fubugirara.
Now this one, I feel like I barely remember.
I barely remember it. And I'll admit part of that is because I accidentally watched it first.
Oh, was there a weird numbering thing again?
No, I just accidentally clicked play on the wrong one. That one was just on me.
I can't believe you got Scary Story Yeti's Cry and Scary Story Lines mixed up somehow.
Yeah.
No.
This would have been easier if I was actually using my Blu-ray properly, but
So, Hokuto is still on his skiing trip with Dan and his sister. Dan can't ski. Meanwhile, some locals are on the hunt for a mountain hermit who comes down to the village in winter and who they think of as a bother. The hermit, angry about his treatment, does a weird dance and is then consumed by fiery snow. Odd. Immediately, the local weather goes haywire and everyone flees into buildings for safety. A guy says he sees something like a yeti outside, and Hokuto calls base to check if there's any unusual readings. HQ tells him nothing's out of the ordinary, and all of a sudden, the blizzard has dissipated. There are some weird Yeti-looking footprints, though, and a couple of hunters follow them, saying, assuring Dan's don't you worry, even if it's a Choju, this hunting rifle will kill it. No, it won't? What are you talking about? You stupid, what the fuck is... Dan's sister goes Yuriko mode, takes a photo of the footprint, puts the, walking pole in it to demonstrate the size of the footprint, and runs off to get the photos delivered. Developed. There we go. Hokuto and Dan find the hunters, who also got caught in the fiery snow and seem to be alive, but in not great condition. They saw it, though. They saw the Yeti. Hokuto calls Tak in, and they believe him about the Yeti. The crew identifies that the Choju must be hiding in the clouds, and they theorize from closer investigation that this creature could be from an icy planet and trying to spread cold weather over the Earth. The crew track down the Choju and start blasting, but they're forced to flee to the hotel, where the residents yell at them. Aren't you Tak? Aren't you supposed to fight the Choju? Aren't you just cowards luring the Choju to us? Aren't you putting us in danger? The captain stops the crew from getting rowdy and agrees we should head out once again and lure the Choju away from these civilians. After they leave, Dan declares that he's the 6th Ultra Brother and he would never do something so shameful as scorn his saviors. As Dan is about to go after the crew,
and then everyone clapped.
And then everyone clapped, yes. The doors are flung open by the blizzard, and all the civilians, Dan and his sister included, are frozen solid. Perhaps Tak is not the object of this Choju's anger. The crew sees all this from a distance and returns. They decide the best they can do is destroy the Choju. They launch in their jets, and the fight is on. And then they eject and crash their jets into the Choju. Classic stuff. And Hokuto turns into Ace. Ace fights the Choju and wins, and everyone at the hotel unfreezes, and the hermit reappears. Everyone is saved. Some local guys cut the hermit's hair and give him a job in the ski lodge's rescue team. Also, Dan still can't ski. The end.
Is this Mount Fuji SOS of Ultraman Ace?
I think this is a little better than that. Do you mean as in, was Mount Fuji SOS the one with the guy who was Tarzan?
Yes.
I see.
It only occurred to me after you finished your summary.
Kind of. It ends on the same beat, but the difference here is that that guy was fighting the kaiju, and this guy became the Choju, and was inflicting his anger on the town. And the thing where the villagers kick out Tak, and then Tak are gone because they assume the Choju's after Tak, and then the Choju attacks them personally because it's fuck you villagers.
Yeah.
Leave me in peace.
I also have 2 points.
Go for it.
One, Hokuto's drip is ridiculous this episode.
I don't remember. Hold on, I need to pull it up. I don't remember it.
I think I have a screenshot.
Do you have a photo?
Yeah, somewhere.
Show me.
Screenshots. Ace. I need to clear.
He's wearing a shirt that says Hokuto, Daddy, Accomplice, Hero.
Yes.
Oh, damn, yeah.
Holy shit. Oh, yeah, he's got the fucking... It's like he's a snow cowboy.
He ain't ride a horse like Dan, though.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Anyway, so my second point.
Go for it.
Those villagers get frozen, and then they get fine after, so, you know.
I believe in
Miracle!
Ultraman, thank you!
Thank you, Mel. Yeah, so they're doing the they're like doing the thing where like, oh, they introduce this guy back into civilization thing at the end, which is like, whatever, as you know. But also, I do like the little bit after they cut his hair when he's like walking around like he's really proud of his appearance, and he like glances into the mirror and goes, "Ooh, pretty." So I was like, oh, yeah, that's nice, even if this is kind of
classic.
Weird. I like this choju, I think, when it's like shot like it's spooky.
Which I unfortunately don't know if it's... I don't know if we get enough horror from
we don't. I would not call this would like I said, I think only the first one of these three I would call like an appropriate episode for like a horror series.
Yeah, I agree.
But I do like when the choju is like stood in like the swirling blizzard and like the eyes are blazing out of it, and I'm like, yeah, that's pretty cool. I like that. I also enjoy all the villagers getting fucking frozen, like Dan included. I'm like, oh, nice, yeah.
I just realized we haven't had the scientist guy in a while.
So,
I
forgot to say this about the first episode. I took a note about this. Have they replaced him with the fake Ueno? Have they finally found fake Ueno's thing?
Yeah, because I just realized this because like I have the note for this episode that Yoshimura, the fake Ueno, just makes a bold claim, Ichino Tani style, that the Yeti is from like the Leo constellation or whatever. I'm like, how do you know that?
Yeah, they've kicked Kaji out, and they've given Yoshimura all his stuff, which means that lately, the last I would say 6 episodes, Yoshimura is much more like suddenly he's talking. He has things now. I'm like, okay,
that seems intended of like, we need to give this guy shit to do.
Yeah, like when they gave Ueno a character episode in the second last episode.
And it was only half an Ueno episode.
Yeah.
I also like the part where
the first 5 minutes of that half of the Ueno episode was teasing us with the possibility that he was creeping on like a teenager. And then psych, he's fine.
I also like the part where Hokuto's like, Yoshimura, you must eject. I'll do it after. And then he does. And he's like, all right, time to do the Ultraman thing, and just crashes in the kaiju.
Yeah, I'm just going to crash. No one is ever like, how'd you survive that crash? I'm just lucky, I guess.
A lot of...
Herzog should do a documentary about it.
If I had a nickel for every time a character in the Ultra series kamikaze into an ice-themed kaiju, I'd have 2 nickels, etc., etc.
etc., etc. Yeah.
This one is less evil, but also, evoking the kamikaze a little bit,
Yeah. No one has yet to do it as cool as what's his name in Mirror Man, the guy singing the theme of the show.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Fujimoto, that's it. I like that when we talked about Mirror Man and we said these aren't really guys except for one guy, and we were all like, oh, you mean Fujimoto? You mean the one guy in the show? Alright, what else is going on here?
This one's just not sticking. This one went really in and out for me.
I like how in
comparison to the other two,
for no reason, the OP starts playing a different version of it, and they still say Minami.
They're getting a lot of use out of that OP the last few episodes, which is
they should stop getting use out of it.
They should.
Stop it. Every decision made in this show is baffling. I don't know who. No one is at the wheel. Yeah. I had to watch. I watched this episode on Tuesday, and I didn't get to write the summary until this morning. And I realized I was going to have to write the summary this morning. when I was at my computer yesterday evening thinking, I'll write the summary now. And then I was like, I can't remember this episode. I have to and I watched it again right then, and I was like, I'll write the summary tomorrow.
Okay, so maybe the thing is, it's not that I didn't remember most of the episodes, I just didn't remember this one specifically.
This one is like...
The most real one.
It's kind of not much happens. The most memorable stuff in it is like everyone freezes, and the hermit, and also the fact that Tak are like... The thing that I like about this episode is Tak is like a well-oiled machine all of a sudden. And they work. Like, they can do it. Well, obviously they can't do it because Ace has to do it, but, you know, they can be like Matt. They can be like the Ultra Guard. They can work together. But just for this episode. Every other episode, they're gaslighting children.
Much like how there's 8 Hokutos, there's like 3 Taks sometimes, it does feel like.
Yeah. Oh well, who made this episode?
This was the second episode directed by Hidetaka Ueno, who I just talked about last episode, and then this was written by Toshiro Ishido.
Nice.
Hello.
Mel.
Special effects director Koichi Kano. The kaiju's done by Yoshio Suzuki. I literally have no other info on this episode.
Damn.
I just remember this fight going on for a while and just being like, I feel nothing for this.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of how it is.
Yeah.
We might not have anything more to say about this episode. I don't know.
I don't think we do.
I feel like this is a pretty sparse one.
All right. In which case, we're wrapped on these episodes of Ultraman Ace. Mel, do you have any color timers for us?
I do. Episode 41. 5 minutes, 26 seconds. Episode 42, 2 minutes, 50 seconds. Episode 43, 3 minutes, 34 seconds. So 1 out of 3.
1 out of 3.
First one's pretty bad.
Yeah. Pretty extensive.
Also, the medical miracle counter is now at 14.
Nice. Okay. Do you have any... What else have you got?
I got the runback trivia.
Go
the penultimate Ultraman one. So special effects director for episode 30 to 35 of Ultraman is Koichi Takano. Whenever I get to it is now. First kaiju on the list is Woo, weirdly prescient. I mean, I perfectly planned this, obviously. Suit actor for Woo was Kunio Suzuki. Says the sculpting was by X-Pro. This quote from the Japanese wiki is that the hair was made out of manila asa, which is used to reinforce plaster, and was repaired at a bicycle store in front of Toho Studios, which dealt in ropes and other materials. I was like, well, I'm not going to remember that, but I'll copy-paste it.
All right.
If you remember, this episode was written by Tetsuo Kinjo, which is why the themes of discrimination were present, because, you know who he is at this point. This is also kind of why Kinjo wanted to do kind of like the Hydra route, where the kaiju is spared instead of being killed for this episode. Next we have my favorite, well-documented, Coronia, the plant monster.
Okay.
Yes.
Suit actors Koji Ogi, Fumio Ikeda, Hiro Kino. I didn't really find much on this one. Other than just like, you made it based off a plant. Then we have Zumbolar, with the, Hayato is actually being cute episode.
Yeah.
Suit actor Kunio Suzuki. Originally, the plan was for the suit actor to be Haruo Nakajima, but he didn't fit in the episode. It fit in the suit. The suit was modified from Gavadon B. The glowing parts of the horn were filled with light bulbs. Apparently, they had a lot of, because this was the fire kaiju. They had a lot of fire and explosions that caused complaints from like the noise and the extreme heat in the area. So that's funny. Next up, we got a guy. Mephiles. Suit actor Koji
Yeah.
Oda.
Yeah.
Voice
That's the
actor.
guy.
Voice actor Seizo Kato. This may be a bit obvious, but Naruto's goal in design was, this is an alien, not a kaiju. And so, you mean an alien, not a kaiju. There is transparent acrylic used for the eyes and mouth, which is how you get that sort of flashing light stuff. It is speculated that those flashing parts of the face were repurposed for Zedon later. Also in the episode, we have Giant Fuji, played by Hiroko Sakurai. Hiroko Sakurai said that she had a lot of fun playing this part, but she was a bit less enthused about, like, I guess you could say, like, merchant stuff or, like, guidebooks, or so to speak, classifying her as a kaiju alongside the others.
Lol.
Also, briefly cameoing in this episode was Kemur, once again returning. The suit actor for this Kemur was Haru Nakajima. They used the original Kemur head, which was later repurposed for Alien Zedon, but they used a new body for the Kemur, and that body would be repurposed for Alien Kuraso in Ultra 7. Also, if you recall last week, originally it was going to be Data in this role, but they used Kemur instead.
Mm-hmm.
This one's for Red. Skydon.
Nice.
Suit actor.
This is nice.
What'd you say?
Best episode of Ultraman.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
Suit actor Eiichi Matsushima. This was modified from the Gami Kujira suit, which is the Pearl Monster. I forgot to mention this for Chemular, but originally Chemular was going to be repurposed from the same suit, but they made a new suit for Chemular instead, so leaving that one to be repurposed for Skydon. Apparently the modifications were pretty extensive. They added horns, but also Gami Kujira was covered in warts, and they had those removed and replaced them more like shell-like ornaments. And the final kaiju for this run back is Kunio Suzuki. I'm stupid. Final kaiju, Sibozu, played by Kunio Suzuki.
Nice.
The kaiju got its name because the script asked for, hey, can you make a kaiju that looks like a sea monster? And so...
Just like, sea Bozu.
Yeah. Apparently the body was sculpted out of a wireframe mesh that was used for Gamora's core. But the skeletal parts are made out of urethane and painted with pearl paint. And that is the run back for Ultraman this week. I'll try and finish it next week, and then I will leave getting to Ultra 7 run back for Honor into Taro.
All right. Well, I guess the last thing on our list is, did we get any emails?
Yes.
Shoot.
So first off, I'm going to do protection of our YouTube comments. We comment on...
Can I ask how many YouTube comments?
Just 2.
Okay.
Yeah, and they're short. We just got one from the Astro Wolf on... the Astro Wolf 217 on our Minimi Lee's episode. He has said, now that Minimi's gone, the intro when roll calling her and Hokuto should just cut to silence right after Hokuto's name.
It should. They should bleep it out. I should bleep it out.
It's like when
in the
Yahweh is
episode.
mentioned in SMT.
And really quick, TF2 Gods in our last week's episode. Ace 38, I love how non-political Japanese works are, sarcastic tone. But seriously, I really like this episode. Probably my favorite Ultraman Christmas special, though he doesn't count the Return of Ultraman 2-parter with Nakon's Christmas episode. It's just kind of incidentally at Christmas.
I see.
Ultraman Ace.
Incidentally, at Christmas counts as Christmas episode. To me, that's fine. There aren't
Die
enough,
Hard is a
there-
Christmas movie.
I was
you know,
about to say Red's
It's not. No, it's not about Die Hard as a Christmas movie. It's about what's a Christmas movie? What's the thing that I had that was I don't have it. It's gone.
That's fine.
Yeah.
We'll remember it
Yeah.
soon.
Ace 39.
In 10 minutes when we're done talking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They say...
War in the Pocket's like a Christmas thing, It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
It's a giant Santa.
yeah.
Yeah.
I always watch it around Thanksgiving for some reason. I've done that for years now, but
Yeah, they do that.
Just don't have it would be easier to not do that if Thanksgiving wasn't real.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did it in Merle with that mapping server, if I recall correctly. Doing things. Anyway, Ace 39, they like the episode because of the Flaming Sword. Ace 40, absolutely bonkers, one of their favorite comic episodes of the Ultra series. Thank you for your comments. Time to go with the emails now. We got 2
emails.
So we got one from Connor Hoffer. I think he sent the email immediately after we started recording. This is for episode 37 to 40. Episode 40. So Connor Hoffer says hello, awoo, ayo. Episode 40 is one of the more humanoid enemy designs in a while for Ace. Alien steals skinny guy with a robot-looking head and really stands out compared to the other kaiju or space kaiju in Ace. Well, I mean, terrible monsters. But anyway, there's just not enough aliens in the show. Since you're all pretty familiar with Monsters of the Week shows, I was curious if at this point you found that there's a more particular look or aesthetic that feels the most appropriate for the Ultraman franchise as opposed to Rider, Sentai, Precure, etc.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Would you say there is one?
I don't know.
Okay.
I feel like maybe, like, sorry, repeat the question one more time. I want to make sure I'm understanding it right.
They were like, I was curious if at this point you found there's a particular look or aesthetic that feels the most appropriate for the Ultraman franchise with respect to, like, the Monsters of the Week, as opposed to Rider, Sentai, etc.
I wouldn't say yet. Maybe when we get a few more. Like, I do think Toru Naruto brings a level of thought and craftsmanship to a lot of these monster designs that I maybe feel like we haven't reached with the other people who have come in.
Yeah,
but I don't know if I just want Naruto-esque designs for the entirety of it.
Yeah, like, I definitely say that like,
sense.
Naruto does bring a lot to, like, creating a cohesive vision, but then obviously he leaves, and then we get different visions. And some of them, like, still feel within of a piece, but, like... Because I think we talked about, like, how some of the guys working on, like, Ultraman Kaiju designs also did Mirror Man designs, and those are very distinct.
There are certain types of... I will say, I think the Venn diagram is that... Sentai is a little different, but Kamen Rider is probably sort of like... the Venn diagram, like, that circle is entirely within the Ultraman circle. And I think the Ultraman, because there's, like, Bolton is, like, a guy that I would expect to see in, like, a Kamen Rider or a Sentai. Like, that kind of design. That, like, just from my brief experiences. But something like a Godzilla, you're not getting in those.
I do feel like maybe it's something about Bolton that stands out compared to other comparable things in Ultraman or in Kamen Rider, but also maybe that's just because, like, I just associate so much with Ultraman. It's kind of like I can't imagine Bolton and anything else.
It's just a particular... There's a way that you design kaiju when, like, they're exclusively huge, and when they are people walking around.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
And I think like you're not going to get walking around Godzilla. You're not going to get little Godzilla like that.
Yeah, like Ella King is always big.
Ella King is always big. Red King is... You're not getting Red King in Kamen Rider.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I definitely agree
unless there's
that.
a crossover.
But yeah.
I think that's probably the extent. Because I think other than that, other than, like, the design sensibilities once you get into, like, size differences, I think Ultraman has been so varied so far.
Yeah.
I think it's been very... There hasn't been much, like, consistency necessarily across, like, what is what.
There's one tie that binds, and it's dinosaurs.
It's dinosaurs.
Sometimes for better, sometimes for worse.
Now, I will say, across Ultraman, there is maybe more, not lots of consistency, but more consistency in terms of, like, when they design an alien, they try to make it alien, versus when they design, like, a kaiju from the Earth. But that's not necessarily, like, a hard rule.
Yeah. Yeah. I say that's fair. I also don't know if, like, you'd say you can see something more coherent in, like, Blazer that's maybe indicative of, like, what current Ultraman looks like, but, like... That's going to be a separate discussion.
Blazer probably reuses kaiju too much to notice.
Yeah. We will see as time goes on anyway.
Yeah.
Thank you for continued efforts and perseverance. Now that Ace is continuing and we even got a bit of Minnie back, how weird is it that even in the Christmas episode the kids were singing about Hokuto and Minnie? I already hope someone got fired for that blunder.
It's fucking weird. Fucking weird. What do they know about Minnie? What do they know? Why are
Do
they
you think
singing
Cat
about
keeps needing to put out press releases like, no, she's around? Like that one Scientologist wife?
Yeah, right. Imagine, did your school ever get visited by, like, the cops who wanted to talk to you about being cops?
Yes.
Right.
They put my friend in handcuffs. And they were like, isn't this cool?
Yeah. Imagine if, at the end of that presentation, you sang a song about one of the cops.
Andy is great. Andy is great.
And then you sung about one of his partners, and you're like, who's that? Oh, he got killed in the line of duty.
Okay. Thank you, Connor.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we just got a short one from Cedric Sir.
Thank you for emailing.
Cedric Sir says, forgot to say last week, but wow, Christmas miracle or something. Speaking of Christmas miracles, Wu's back because of reasons. How fortuitous of you to cover the only 3 of this show's winter horror episodes all at once.
Yeah, I was like lucked out on that.
Yeah.
Did a pretty good job. It was all part of the plan.
Yeah.
We're going Kong Ming mode.
Yeah. And they say that is all.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sick. Well, that is an episode of the fucking podcast.
If it's alright, there's
go
just
ahead.
a couple things I want to maybe say.
Go for it.
Scheduling wise.
Yes.
Do you want to mention the thing about Taro briefly because we figured that out last week? We'll bring it up again later.
Do we want to mention that when we get to Taro?
Maybe I guess we can wait a bit.
Yeah,
maybe,
I'd say save it.
Maybe to the end of, at least until the end of the season. Maybe.
Yeah, we got a fun. Taro's numbering is like fucking with us a little bit. It like there's no good cutoff. And Brad made a suggestion that was like semi a joke, and then we figured out the numbers and was like, oh, this is actually
half
this is,
joke,
yes.
half pipe dream, and it ended up working out.
Yeah.
I'm very happy about it.
This works perfectly.
Yeah.
And we're gonna do that. So we will tell you about that later.
Yeah.
This is a teaser.
That's relevant for the first month of Taro. That's relevant. Fact.
Have we ever done teasers before? This is a teaser.
No, a few, I think. The second one I just want to mention is that nothing concrete yet, but as of this week, we have movement on the Blazer movie.
Ooh. Movement.
Yeah, because at some point this week, we're getting the Blu-ray in Japan. But more importantly,
and then
for us,
it's getting screened.
Yeah, so this week, at the end of the week, it's going to be the dub is being screened at San Diego Comic-Con. Premiered. So presumably that means the movie will be soon.
Well, that's probably why it's taken so fucking long.
Yeah.
Don't Super Riot, don't do that.
Yeah, I mean maybe next Arcs movies next year will come sooner when there's an Ultraman Rising, but we'll see. But yeah, presumably we don't. By this time next week, there will be some people who have seen an English version of that movie, and we may or may not know when the movie is out. Best case scenario, they just
Can I tell you when that movie was out? February the 23rd.
Yeah. But yeah, hopefully next week we'll have a better idea of like when that is coming. Maybe they'll shadow drop it. Probably not, but like,
we'll know. We'll be chatting about it.
We'll figure it out when.
It's like how they aired Ultra Q like in the middle of like 7 or whatever the fuck. That actually was. It's just we're gonna be like 8 episodes deep into Arc, and then Blazer movie will come out.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not even sure when the best time to schedule that movie would be in August anyway, because we have the end of Ace and the beginning of Taro, and then an Arc episode probably somewhere. So we'll figure it out though. Mirrorman get fucked probably though.
One last housekeeping thing. I am going to be in fucking Canada next week, so I will not be here.
I'll be in Canada
Damn.
next week, which means I will be here.
Yeah.
Oh, you fucking terrified me. I forgot you were from Canada.
Oh.
For like 2 seconds. I was like, what? Oh no. I didn't know about this.
I know what you meant, Red, but it really sounded like you got jump scared by the fact that Mel's Canadian. The way you phrased that.
You said that, and I was like, oh no. Oh, hang on. Everything's fine. All right. That is the show this week. If you want to follow us on Twitter, you can do so at @ultra_Q. That is at @ultra_QUEUE. Mel.
You can follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky at your crowns. There's ultqpod@gmail.com is the email. We got 3 more weeks left of the show, so prepare some emails for the finale if you wish. We'll be doing Choju's/Terrible Monster Sorter, of course. And also we got the coffee Ultra Fund. Brad.
You can find me behind the Door of Darkness with King Mickey at B Invoked. That's BE_INVOKED.
What are you doing with King Mickey?
Don't worry about it.
Okay.
This does happen at the end of KH1. Someone gets stranded behind the Door of Darkness with King Mickey. They're just hanging out.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
I interrupted your plug.
That's fine. I said the Be Invoked thing. That's fine. I'm on YouTube and Twitter.
In which case, that's the episode. We're done here. And my one final note is Girls Band Cry should have ended with Rupa in a Primus Sucks shirt. That's it. Goodbye. See you next week.
Goodbye.
I don't get what that means, but later.